Part 23. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 222. In the middle of the night, when she was sleeping soundly, her chest felt as heavy as a mountain, and the strong smell of alcohol lingered on Lily's nose, making her feel dizzy and dizzy. A hand groped around her waist, trying to drill in. The cold fingertips touched the warm skin, making Lily shiver with excitement and wake up suddenly. "I heard that you want to inquire about the poor painter," Mu Xiao's somewhat hoarse voice rang out. When he said the last word, the ending sound was hooked, as if it was hooked straight into the heart, making people feel I couldn't help but tremble all over. At this moment, Lily's hands were pressed on top of her head by him, and her clothes had been pushed down under her breasts, revealing her delicate and full chest line. Mu Xiao, who had disappeared for several days, was back now. Her previous guess was indeed correct. Lily's originally confused thoughts suddenly sobered up. Just when she was about to speak, her lips were warm and moist with the smell of alcohol. The corners of her mouth pursed slightly, and she still smelled of powder and perfume, mixed together, making Lily almost vomit. She wanted to struggle, but Mu Xiao suppressed her tighter. Lily felt overwhelmingly uncomfortable. He pried her lips apart gently with his teeth and tongue, and began to brush every part of her mouth with his tongue. The smell of alcohol made her feel uncomfortable. She couldn't help but retched, and suddenly she got the strength from nowhere to push Mu Xiao away, bent down, and vomited several times to the side. With a pop sound, the bedside lamp in the room was suddenly turned on. Mu Xiao's face was horribly gloomy, and there seemed to be a storm building up in his eyes. There was murderous intention under his eyes, as if he would be killed the next moment. It will be like taking action. Lily resisted the nausea that came up one after another. She originally wanted to apologize, but she couldn't open her mouth at the moment. She would spit it out when she opened her mouth. He could only look at Mu Xiao pitifully. Although she was a little afraid of his appearance at this time, seeing that he had already reached out to touch his waist, Lily could feel the strong murderous aura. After drinking, Mu Xiao was more dangerous than usual, but she hesitated for a moment and could no longer bear it. She couldn't hold it anymore. If she dared to vomit in the room at this time, Mu Xiao would definitely kill her. She could only cover her lips. She ran frantically towards her toilet, planning to apologize to him after vomiting, so that this lunatic could forgive her. "After being kissed by me, you vomited like this." Lily was still holding the toilet and vomited with snot and tears streaming down her face. Mu Xiao had a black dagger in his hand and was playing with it between his fingers. "The knife given to me by Colonel Hirayama, let's see if the edge is sharp," he smiled, with charming smile lines at the corners of his mouth, but his eyes flickered coldly. His gaze fell on Lily's fingers holding the toilet, and his eyes revealed unabashedly what he wanted her to do. Test the intention of not having a sharp edge. Lily shivered all over. This man is a complete danger and a lunatic. She opened her mouth and spat twice more. If it weren't for the smell of her vomit in the toilet, Mu Xiao would have come in by himself by now, but Lily didn't dare to delay because she was afraid that if she delayed for too long, Mu Xiao would directly shoot her with the knife. She cursed a few more times in her mind, and suddenly she didn't know what to think of. She got up and flushed the toilet, and boiled water to wash her mouth. She saw the storage box on her dressing table and turned to look at Mu Xiao. "One glance, I just want to tell you that I'm pregnant." She burst into tears, as if she was sad and uncomfortable, mixed with a bit of fear. The discomfort was fake, but the sadness was real. This task became more and more difficult every time. The dangerous person she met this time even wanted to chop her own wife into pieces. She didn't know what kind of situation she would encounter next time, and Lily was indeed a little scared. After saying this, she saw Mu Xiao's stunned look, and the redness in his eyes faded a bit. She breathed a sigh of relief and cautiously moved towards him. Seeing that he was leaning against the door frame and not moving, She tentatively put her hand on his neck, her voice trembling. "You disappeared for several days, and when you came back you are so cruel to me. Even if you just don't want this child, you should take care of the fact that I am pregnant and you can't be so cruel to me." Mu Xiao frowned, and the expression on his face was no longer the same as before, but gradually became more serious. He stared at Lily, and he turned the hand in his hand, and pulled Lily's body circled in his arms. His hands moved again to put the dagger into its sheath. "Pregnant," there was a bit of weirdness in his voice. He felt the delicate female body in his arms. He lowered his head to look at the light in the bathroom. Seeing this woman who had changed a lot recently, Mu Xiao suddenly found that he didn't understand her. She seemed to make herself feel much more comfortable than before. She no longer only shivered when she saw him every day. She was now acting coquettishly and cooperated extremely well in bed. Thinking of this, he stretched out his hand to hold her buttocks and followed her movements. "The beautiful waistline is still very slender when you touch it up. I have been married to her for 2 months and she seems to have changed a little in this month. Her figure has become more attractive than the girl's flat body when she was just married. She was much pregnant, and she didn't look like she was pregnant, but she didn't have the guts to lie to herself." In fact, Mu Xiao was not prepared to have this child, even though he had not taken any measures before, but during that time he was a heavy drug addict, and because Qin Bei he was disobedient at first, he fed this woman several times. The medicine was not small in quantity. This child came at the wrong time. However, looking at her coquettish look, Mu Xiao lazily let her lean in front of him, and suddenly found that he seemed to not understand her. At the beginning, he only married her because of her appearance, figure, and the innocent feeling in her body. "I really wanted to destroy her. But now in the past month, Lily seems to have changed a little, and she has become something that allows him to remember this." The woman's appearance and character seemed to have changed along with him. A feeling of pity arose in his heart. Mu Xiao noticed it immediately and couldn't help but frown in disgust. People like him live in darkness. They can never be cleansed in their lifetime. Their hearts are as black as ink. Now, Mu Xiao actually felt pity for a woman who was like a plaything. Mu Xiao sneered twice and forcefully pulled off Lily's arm from around his neck. When he saw her frown, he instinctively moved lightly. After a while, he came back to his senses and became more and more dissatisfied with his abnormal self. He pushed Lily to the ground hard and saw her fall into the bathroom. She hit the bathroom door with a clang, and her hands were bruised. He held onto the door in embarrassment, then grasped his body in panic, but he looked like he dared not speak in anger, and suddenly felt like laughing. "It stinks. Brush your teeth, 10 times. I'll keep an eye on it. I'll call the doctor tomorrow." Mu Xiao put the dagger back into his pocket, folded his hands around his chest, and stared at Lily lazily. "I can count. Brushing your teeth should take no less than 3 minutes at a time, so go ahead." Lily was relieved that he didn't say anything more about testing the sharpness of the dagger, but when she heard him say that she had to brush her teeth 10 times, she couldn't help but cursed in her heart. 1 brushing would take 3 minutes, and 10 brushings would take half an hour. Such a pervert, why hasn't God accepted him yet? People under the eaves have to bow their heads. Lily suppressed the depression in her heart and responded helplessly. While brushing her teeth with toothpaste, she mentally cursed Mu Xiao with all the curse words she knew, and then she felt much better. I don't know if Mu Xiao had been fooling around outside this night, but he didn't touch her, which was rare. He just held her in his arms and slept quietly all night. Sure enough, the doctor was called over the next morning. In addition to the main house, the Mu family's mansion also has various clubs for medical treatment, sports, health, and business talks. These buildings are the real Mu family's mansion. Lily, when she was escorted by Mu Xiao the next day, a group of trembling doctors examined her and found that she was indeed pregnant. Calculating the time, it should be the period when she entered the mission. In the plot, Qin Beihe was not pregnant, so Beihe was sure that it was because she came to this world that the plot changed to a certain extent. Master, this child. The young doctor in a white coat looked at Mu Xiao, who had a gloomy and uncertain expression, with some trepidation. He was a little unsure of what he had in mind. At this moment, everyone present had a blank look on their faces. It seems that the fact that Mu Xiao is about to have a child is so shocking that people can't recover from it. A person like Mu Xiao is a typical person who can get drunk today and get drunk the next. No matter what the result will be tomorrow, he will have an heir. In the eyes of others, this is like a big joke, but everyone is afraid to laugh. The sound came, and they glanced at each other. There was a deathly silence in the hospital. Is there something wrong with the child? Mu Xiao naturally saw the strange looks from others, his face darkened, and he looked back at Lily. Among this group of people, Lily was probably the calmest one. She was still sitting on the sofa on the first floor, the sun shone on her through the glass, which made him unable to recover for a moment. He heard from the housekeeper that she hadn't left the room for several days, and her face looked a little pale and transparent. This color it often appeared on his face, and logically he should be used to it, but now when Mu Xiao saw it, it felt unusually dazzling. We can't tell for the moment. We will do an amniocentesis test on Madam. The young master wants to. The doctor replied cautiously, and Mu Xiao gave them a cold look. No, let's get pregnant first. As soon as such irresponsible words were spoken, everyone couldn't help but twitch their mouths. Lily was not surprised at all. Mu Xiao had such a character. She stretched out her hand to cover her stomach. After Mu Xiao confessed some things, he went to the Lily came over, and naturally the housekeeper was there to take care of the medicine and listen to the precautions. As a ready-made father, he did it very leisurely, and he also fell down on the sofa. Lily only felt that the sofa next to her sank, and her body involuntarily, Chao Muxiao fell down and was pulled into his arms. To be continued. P.S. 3 updates today. Book title, Medical Advice. Introduction, when everything starts over, with medical skills at hand, let's see how she can find a bright future. Thanks to, Tong Huan, he Shivi who gave the reward. Canon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 223. Mu Xiao smelled of tobacco and a touch of men's perfume, which mixed together to form his unique smell. Even though he didn't go out today, he was still wearing a white shirt and a black suit, and his skin was so pale that there was no trace of it. The color of his blood, his lips also looked a bit white, and there were some green shadows under his eyes. However, because his facial features were somewhat deep, the faint dark circles under his eyes did not detract from his handsomeness, but gave him a dark look. It adds a different kind of charm. What do you want to do to find information about that poor painter? He opened his arms and circled Lily into his aura, with a lazy expression. If you want to get rid of him, I will do it. If you want to fool around with him, I will do it. Don't think about it until I'm tired of playing with it. After saying this, he turned his head, lowered his face, and smiled at Lily, his white teeth exposed, with a viciousness that chose others to devour. Do you understand what I said? Lily sighed. She didn't know whether it was because of her pregnancy or because Mu Xiao didn't show his fangs to her even though he had murderous intent. She slowly became bolder. Yes. You didn't understand what I said, did you? I want his information because I want to teach him a lesson so that he won't bother me all day long. The more she spoke, the more agitated she became. The original owner's body, the remaining love and hatred for Du Jianyu were mixed together, making her unable to calm down even if she tried her best to suppress it. I don't like him anymore. Fang Qiaxin wants to steal you. I don't agree. You are not tired of playing. I am not tired of playing yet. I was in a bad mood just now. The words just flew out of his mouth. After Lily finished speaking, she remembered who the man in front of her was. She closed her eyes and gritted her teeth. She took a deep breath again, trying to calm down. If she had been in this state, let alone completing the task for the original owner, it's not even certain whether he can survive long enough to complete the mission. She had already accumulated a lot of negative emotions from completing several tasks in succession, no matter how calm she was. It's easy to get angry now, especially as the tasks become more difficult each time, and because she doesn't have enough mental power, it's often the original owner's mood that affects her speech and decision-making. This feeling is not good, but Lily had no choice but to try to calm down before having a good talk with Mu Xiao. Unexpectedly, before she could say her sorry words, Mu Xiao had already turned to look at her and suddenly laughed softly. He raised the corners of his mouth and narrowed his eyes and said, "You have backbone." "I like it." He laughed so hard that his eyes sparkled. He looked evil and evil. "Wait, I'll give you the boy's information at noon. It's fun, my baby." He laughed and held Lily's head, and pressed his lips to the corners of her lips again. As rough as ever, Lily resisted and didn't push him away. It was rare that Mu Xiao didn't go out at noon. He patiently had lunch with Lily. The housekeeper delivered Du Jianyu's materials before lunch on time. Lily was about to flip through them, but Mu Xiao pressed down on the materials with his palm. He signaled the maid to serve her soup and put it in front of her, asking her to look at it after she finished her meal. After resisting her temper after lunch, Lily picked up the information and read it carefully. The information stated that Du Jianyu was born in the countryside. His mother was just an ordinary peasant woman in the west of the city. His father made a living by doing odd jobs for others in his early years. Jianyu broke his spine when he was 10 years old and is now paralyzed in bed. Du Jianyu is the only son in the family. His parents were already quite young when they gave birth to him. Now that they are old and disabled, they naturally have no spare capacity to support them. He really liked painting since he was a child, but unfortunately the Du family's situation no longer allowed him to study. And he has relied on the support of his neighbors since he was a child to study till now. Although this person has no money, he has the good looks given to him by his parents. Therefore, there are many people who like him all the way from elementary school to junior high school. Fang Qiaxin finds the reason why I fell in love with him is that in addition to Du Jianyu's inner haze, he embodies Qin Beihe's favorite type. He has a sympathetic life experience, a handsome appearance that gives people a sense of security, and an eloquent mouth. He can coax the sparrows down, so it is no problem to deal with a girl who is inexperienced in the world. What Fang Qiaxin promised him was that after the matter was accomplished, in addition to letting him have a rich woman, the most important thing was it just gave him another way and was willing to give him money to send him to Paris to study art. There was also a CD attached to the information. Just as Lily was about to stand up, a long and thin hand pulled the thing away and handed her a cup of warm red date tonic tea. Mu Xiao handed the disc to the maid and signaled her to open the TV wall. The first face that appeared on it was an old woman in her 60s. She was proud and said with some disdain, "There is a woman from the city. She is rich indeed. I heard she is the daughter of some boss. Unfortunately, she is not a child. She is just a pair of broken shoes left over from playing with others. I told Aryua that we don't want it. But that woman is always pestering him. Hey, what kind of daughter-in-law? I am not afraid of your jokes, I haven't agreed to this marriage yet. Even if the other party comes to the door with money, I won't care about it." I don't know where this information came from. When Lily saw this, her heart suddenly started to hurt, as if someone had grabbed her hard, and her heart was beating very fast. This must be the feeling of the original owner. Lily took deep breaths several times, but could not calm down. Mu Xiao stared at her with a half-smile, and had no intention of helping her. "They don't want the old shoes I used to play with." What are you going to do? Mu Xiao's eyes flashed coldly, and the corners of his mouth curved in a mocking way. When he saw the small table next to the sofa with a box of cigars on it, he stood up and wanted to get it, but as soon as he stretched out his hand, he lowered it again. His expression suddenly turned ferocious. After a while, he snorted coldly and kicked the coffee table hard. There was a loud clang sound, which scared Lily. While jumping, the things on top fell down, and Lily came back to her senses, and the pain in her heart slowly faded away. The old woman on the plate was still talking about how Qin Beihe shamelessly seduced her son. She should be showing off to the neighbor next door, but I don't know if it was because of the heartache she had suffered before, but Lily was very angry at the moment. Calmly, after reading all this, she knew that this old woman was not as honest as she appeared, and naturally she was not as honest as Gu Li. She turned her head and glanced at Mu Xiao, smiled slightly, and said, Mu Xiao, can you help me? I'll give it a try. After she finished speaking, she stood up and whispered a few words into Mu Xiao's ear. At first, Mu Xiao looked a little impatient. He reached out and squeezed her wrist tightly, as if he wanted to throw her away. After hearing this, he became interested and raised the corners of his mouth. He originally wanted to shake her away. The movement of pulling away turned into hugging her in his arms. After hearing what Lily said, he laughed, okay, I like this. Lily smiled and said, it's just a matter of treating others in their own way. Du Jianyu tricked Qin Beihe into painting a nude painting, which made Qin Beihe famous in the street. Now what she wants to do is actually very simple, just ask Mu Xiao to help force Du Mu to paint a nude painting too. Didn't Du Jianyu want to be famous? She wanted to make Du Jianyu famous enough. It was best to be notorious for the rest of his life. No matter how talented he was in the future, he would not be able to get rid of these shadows. In the afternoon, Mu Xiao was called out by a phone call. When he left, dressed elegantly and looking like a dog, Lily was originally going to go back to the house to paint, but Du Jianyu called again. He had not completed Fang Qiuxin's commission for several days in a row, which made Fang Qiuxin very dissatisfied and already seemed a little cold towards him. Du Jianyu thought that he was talented, but it was just because his family was too poor that he was blocked from doing so. Now, someone finally put an opportunity in front of him, and he must cherish it, so he was already a little anxious. Fang Qiuxin now only has one request for him, which is to let him contract Qin buyout. Du Jianyu not only was he afraid that Fang Qiuxin would regret it, but he was also afraid that his future would be ruined in Lily's hands, so he agreed directly regardless of what Fang Qiuxin wanted to ask Lily to do. Lily had not yet come downstairs when he called. The housekeeper handed the phone to her ear. When Lily heard Du Jianyu's voice, most of her face turned dark. Du Jianyu, you are still haunted. Ziahe, where did I offend you? Tell me that I really miss you. I miss you. I admit that I have fallen in love with you. I have fallen in love with you, a heartless and unjust woman. When Du Jianyu said this, he looked a little downcast, and he yelled at the end of his voice, as if he was really trapped by love and couldn't help himself. Lily seemed to hear the sound of crying, and the corners of her mouth twitched involuntarily. She really didn't have time to get involved with Du Jianyu. He would disappear in front of her soon anyway. It was really pointless to be angry with such a person. Lily hung up the phone and just went upstairs. About half an hour later, an alarm sounded from downstairs, and all the security guards in the Mu family's mansion were mobilized. She was originally drawing symbols in the studio, and she only drew the talisman she had just drawn. After folding a holding charm and putting it into her pocket, someone came up from behind and covered her mouth with a handkerchief stained with something unknown. Lily just wanted to curse her, but she rolled her eyes and quickly fainted. Past. When she woke up, she was surrounded by deafening sounds. She seemed to be being carried on the shoulders, and the shoulders were pressing against her stomach. It made her feel sick and wanted to vomit. The music around her made her heart beat faster. In a daze, the door was opened, and she passed a group of black-clad bodyguards and was carried into the house. The person carrying her threw her to the ground. She was thrown to the ground and hit the glass cabinet on the side. The pain made her twitch all over, and then she finally woke up. To be continued. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 224. President Hirayama, how do you like the new woman I found for you? Fang Kyoxin's familiar voice rang. The words were like thunder in Lily's ears, making her excited. She was still feeling a little excited. His heavy eyelids suddenly opened and he looked around. It looked like a sealed box. There were 2 or 3 men sitting on the sofa inside. A group of women wearing bunny girls' revealing clothes were kneeling in front of these people. In front of her, the buttocks were raised high, and in the middle of the perfect curves, each holding a bottle of champagne. Under the dim light, the little tail on the bunny girl's buttocks, paired with the cup, made the scene very decadent. Mu Xiao, who was sitting next to a guy with a crew cut and wearing an open-chested kimono, narrowed his eyes when he saw Lily sitting up. He was enjoying the perfect service of the girls in front of him, but now he saw the person who shouldn't be here is here. Although his expression has not changed, the smile at the corner of his mouth has a hint of ferocity, and his eyes flash with a fierce light. Just as he is about to speak, Fang Kyoxin continues, she is a truly pure woman. Although she is no longer a virgin, but she is pregnant. Wouldn't it be interesting to get that bastard out? I know that Mr. Hirayama has a way to pull the baby out of the woman's body alive, but I have never seen it with my own eyes. No, do you know if I have this honor? Japan's Colonel Hirayama is a well-known figure in the underworld. He has been friends with Mu Xiao for several years. Every year, Colonel Hirayama, a woman trained by the Hirayama family, always gives some to Mu Xiao as soon as possible. The two maintain a friendly relationship. Colonel Hirayama has seen many women and played with many people, but this person has a bloody and cruel temperament. My favorite thing is to torture women. Even though Fang Kyoxin knew that he had never played with a pregnant woman. It's not necessarily that he has never caused trouble by playing with pregnant women, but if it is the woman Mu Xiao sends, he will definitely be very interested. Mu Xiao had taken in as many women as Colonel Hirayama in the past, and Qinbei was just a plaything to him, even if it was a slightly more expensive plaything, but he would definitely not refuse his future benefits for the sake of a woman. This is the price Lily will pay for daring to offend her. The position of the Mu family's young lady will be hers from now on, and she is the only woman who can stand upright and upright beside Mu Xiao. Lily dared to embarrass her in front of her servants in the future. Now this is the reward he gives her. Her body is dirty and ruined, and she may die. Mu Xiao will not offend the underworld for a woman like her. The predator, even if she is alive, as long as she bears the symbol of the Hirayama family, she will have to spend the rest of her life in Japan, and it is conceivable that she will follow someone like Colonel Hirayama. Apart from being played with as a plaything, in this life I have no choice but to live or die. Fang Kyoxin knew that Colonel Hirayama had a manner. There were many humiliated female slaves kept inside, living like humans and ghosts. Before Lily could clearly see the scene in the room, she was lifted up by Fang Kyoxin, who wanted to drag her towards the middle-aged man with a sinister face. She sneered twice, seeing Mu Xiao's clever way of speaking but not giving him a chance. The soft moans and delicate smiles of women in the private room rang out, mixed together. Fang Qiao hadn't finished what she was saying. Seeing that Lily was about to be dragged in front of the group of girls with raised buttocks, she finally took out a piece of talisman paper she carried with her. Fang Qiao was so far away from her. Recently, she just happened to put something on Fang Qiao's chest. Everyone was stunned by this action. Mu Xiao's eyes were wide open, and the wine in his mouth almost spurted out. Fang Qiaoxin, who was still talking, was speechless. She soon discovered something strange about herself and said in a panic, "Why can't I move?" Lily straightened up slowly and straightened her hair. She smiled brightly at Mu Xiao and rolled her eyes. "Husband, are you surprised when I show up?" She didn't know how she got there. But at this moment, she acted like she was surprising Mu Xiao. Colonel Hirayama frowned at first, and then smiled meaningfully. "Mu Sang," the middle-aged man's voice was a little strange, and his accent when he spoke, hearing this makes one feel chilled in his heart. "Mr. Hingshan? I wonder if you would mind accepting a gift." Lily heard Mr. Hingshan, whom Fang Qiaoxin had just called, and saw the middle-aged man who spoke now. The man in black sitting next to him kept whispering in his ear. She was speaking softly, obviously not the person in charge, more likely just a translator, so of course she knew who Fang Qiao meant was Ping Shan. Lily stood firm, pointed at Fang Qiaoxin, and kicked the kneeling girl in front of her away. The girl screamed, her body became unstable after kneeling for a long time, and she even wanted to pose in a seductive manner. At this moment, he was kicked by Lily and rolled to the side. The wine glass fell to the ground with a clang sound and shattered into pieces. The light brown liquid inside poured out and flowed all over the carpet. Lily pushed the woman who was lying on Mu Xiao's lap away, and unceremoniously sat on Mu Xiao's lap. Only then did her tense body relax. Among this group of vicious men, who were not good people at first glance, Mu Xiao, who originally seemed to Lily to be the most dangerous, was the one she was more familiar with. In comparison, no matter how dangerous Mu Xiao was, he was still more dangerous than the others. "The people are much nicer." She hugged Mu Xiao's waist tightly, and then she felt relieved. But even after doing all this, Lily was still a little nervous. The man next to her stared at her with a sullen face, which made her hair stand on end. Lily quickly took Mu Xiao's hand and put it around her waist, and faced him very actively. He smiled, leaned against Mu Xiao's chest and said, "Hubby, lend me your dagger to play with." She stared at Fang Qiaoxin with a sneer at the corner of her mouth. After saying this, Mu Xiao didn't move for a while. Lily simply reached out to touch her. As soon as her hand was about to move, Mu Xiao caught her with a look in his eyes. With a dark and inexplicable brilliance, he said in a hoarse voice, "Stop joking with Mr. Hirayama." Mu Xiao's eyes darkened, and he obviously didn't like Lily's sudden appearance here. His whole body tensed up at this moment, and his arms tightened around Lily's waist, causing her body to ache. Obviously at this moment, Mu Xiao was already extremely angry, but he was just holding it back. Lily pursed her lips, hooked Mu Xiao's head and pulled him down, pressed her lips against hers, and began to fumble in his pocket. Mu Xiao was still tense at first, but then he took the initiative and handed a dagger to her hand. Lily breathed a sigh of relief. When she was about to push him away, Mu Xiao bit her lip again and then let her leave. "Lift Fang Qiaoxin over here for me, don't touch anything on her chest." Lily felt angry at this moment. She looked at Fang Qiaoxin with a bit of coldness in her expression. When everyone heard her order, they were a little puzzled. Mu Xiao frowned and glanced at Fang Qiaoxin's strange movements. She seemed to be sluggish in her arresting actions. Fang Qiaoxin had never been so out of control before. She looked like this at this time, which made Mu Xiao feel weird. At the same time, he still snapped his fingers. Fang Qiaoxin was stunned by Lily's action just now. The next moment she found that she couldn't move her body. She had always been an atheist. At this moment, she didn't think that Lily had cast any spell on her, even after seeing the one on her chest. Ridiculous yellow talisman paper, but she only thought that Lily had given her some weird medicine. At this moment, seeing Lily's smile and seeing her flicking the dagger away, Fang Kioxin smiled slightly and said sternly. Qin Beihe, what do you want to do to me? She had never looked down upon this eldest lady before. At this time, her face was still the same as before. Fang Kioxin should not have been afraid, but now a bad premonition came into her heart, and her face changed. She looked a little ugly, and just when she was about to threaten her again, Mu Xiao had already asked someone to move her closer. From the corner of Lily's eyes, she saw that the Japanese man next to her, known as Mr. Hirayama, was still staring at her. She couldn't help but feel numbness in her back. She pulled Mu Xiao to his feet and asked him to tightly wrap his hands around her waist. Only then did she feel a sense of security. She opened the dagger and placed the tip gently on Fang Kioxin's chest. Start paddling. Mr. Hirayama, do you want to see it? Lily turned around and asked Colonel Fang, and the translator next to him started translating along with the gloomy-looking middle-aged man. Colonel Hirayama showed a smile on his face, nodded, and said hello to Lily. Gesture. Qin. Fang Kioxin originally wanted to threaten, but Lily saw a whip specially placed on the table for training female slaves. She picked it up without thinking, folded the whip body and used it as a slap in the face. The stick hit Fang Kioxin's face with a pop sound. I don't know what the whip is made of. This whip hit Fang Kioxin until Fang Kioxin was blinded. Even though Lily's hand was not very strong, Fang Kioxin's white and tender face quickly appeared because of the whip. There were 2 red marks on her face, and she stared at Lily coldly. The scars on her face, combined with her actions at this time, gave her a sense of pleasure of being whipped. Shut up. If you talk again, I'll dig out your eyes, Lily snorted. She was originally in the studio today, and her inexplicable appearance here must be related to Fang Kioxin. If she doesn't take revenge, it really makes her angry. She cut the buttons of Fang Kioxin's shirt one by one. Under the black shirt, her white breasts were very dazzling. Does Mr. Hirayama like this gift? Lily only cut half of it, then he stopped and turned around to ask. Fang Kioxin, a woman who has always been arrogant, was being tortured at this moment. It is obvious that such a woman will make people interested. Naturally, Colonel Hirayama was also interested. He glanced at Mu Xiao and seemed to mean something. I'm afraid of Mu Sang. I refuse to give up my love. When he spoke, his voice was sinister and his tone was weird, making people feel goosebumps for no reason. To be continued. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 225. I am the only husband I have. I make the decision to give this woman to you. Lily hugged Mu Xiao tightly, fearing that he would disagree. She jumped up and hung on him, reaching out to pull his head off. Pulling it down and letting him bury it between her neck. You can play with it as you like. Just now, Fang Kioxin said that she would let someone play with the child in her belly. Lily naturally responded in kind at this moment. I think it's better to play with the child than to play with it. Come out, Mr. Hirayama will probably prefer to plant the child himself, and next year it will be more interesting to see how he crawls out of a woman's belly. Mu Xiao didn't say anything, and buried his head between her shoulders. He was quiet at first, and then he stretched out his tongue and licked it gently. It didn't take long for the clothes on Lily's shoulders to be wet with saliva and stuck to her body. Just when she was about to struggle, the Japanese didn't know what they were saying, and the translator hadn't spoken yet. At this time, Mu Xiao suddenly raised his head and slowly turned his head to stare at the 2 people. Mrs. Mu, Mr. Hingshan would like to know, what weird method did you use to immobilize Miss Fang? Mr. Hingshan knows that Eastern martial arts are profound and profound. Can you please teach him, Mrs. Mu? The translator walked respectfully towards Lilywin. After bowing, he translated what Colonel Hirayama said. Before Lily could speak, Mu Xiao had already laughed. Want to learn? Then the only way is to ask Mr. Hirayama to pay for the tuition with his life. He finished speaking softly. There was still a bit of a smile in his eyes when he said this. No one expected that he would fall out of love as soon as he opened his mouth. Before Lily could react, Mu Xiao had already grabbed her hand holding the dagger and fiercely pointed at Ping Shan. Colonel rushed over. The tip of the knife scratched his neck, and warm human blood spurted out. Lily was sprinkled all over my head and face. Some of the rich bloody smell rushed into her mouth, which she had no time to close. She couldn't help but turned her head in horror and retched. Wow, Colonel Hirayama probably didn't expect that Mu Xiao would immediately turn around like a lunatic, so he was completely unprepared. When he fell on the sofa, his eyes were still open, and a weird smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. The girls next to her were about to scream, but Lily was already trembling all over. She held a whip in one hand and whipped it out hard with the other. There was a snap sound on a girl's body, until she couldn't help but open her mouth and moan in pain. Lily's body trembled and she shouted softly, "Don't scream." There were all bodyguards with guns and ammunition outside. She saw it when she first entered the door. There were 2 rows of people standing there. It seemed that they were not all Mu Xiao's people. Fang Qiao's heart was not dead yet. How could something happen to her now? When Lily pulled out the whip, even the bodyguards outside who felt something was wrong felt relieved. He thought that Colonel Hirayama was just training women again, so he didn't take it to heart. At this moment, Mu Xiao's people in the room had already cleared away all the Pingshan family's guards. "You are crazy, Mu Xiao. You actually killed Mr. Hingshan for such a woman. Are you crazy? He is willing to trade 10 of the best female slaves with you for her. 10 female slaves are of great use to you." Fang Qiaoxin, whose clothes were disheveled at this time, glanced at Mu Xiao with some disbelief. Colonel Hirayama sends so many well-trained women to Mu Xiao every year. Such treatment should be enough to cultivate feelings for even a vicious tiger, but Mu Xiao actually fell out over a woman. What made Fang Qiaoxin feel a little embarrassed was not that Mu Xiao would do such an irrational thing, but that Mu Xiao would do such a thing for Lily, which she couldn't accept at all. "Shut up," Mu Xiao smiled and shouted. While asking someone to open the back door of the box, he motioned for someone to carry Fang Qiaoxin to the door. I don't know who pulled the trigger, and there was a bang gunshot outside. When the bodyguard of the Pingshan family hurriedly opened the door, Mu Xiao lowered his head and looked at it from the perspective of others, as if he saw him kissing Fang Qiaoxin. When Fang Qiaoxin's heart was beating violently, he only heard Mu Xiao's soft voice said in her ear, "Game over." Before she could understand what was going on, she saw Mu Xiao holding Lily and preparing to run out quickly. She was left where she was. A group of Japanese people cursed angrily, but she didn't know why. She couldn't do it at all. "Move. I'm pregnant with your child, Mu Xiao. I've checked that your child is healthy." Fang Qiaoxin was extremely smart. She didn't know that Mu Xiao was not doing this to love her, but to harm her. Her lips trembled. Emphasized. The man who was about to leave turned his head, smiled at her, raised one long leg, and kicked her soft belly hard. There was a muffled sound of bang, and Fang Qiaoxin's face turned pale for an instant, and she screamed in pain. However, because of the binding amulet, even if she was kicked by Mu Xiao and fell back, she was still in severe pain. She still couldn't move, she only felt a terrible pain in her stomach, and streams of hot liquid began to flow down. "No more now." Mu Xiao grinned at Fang Qiaoxin, gave her a cold look, and turned around to leave without hesitation. At that moment, Mu Xiao's side face made Lily feel cold. She remembered the way she looked when she told Mu Xiao that she was pregnant. Now seeing Fang Qiaoxin biting her lip in pain, the scream she had just made was so heart-wrenching that it made Lily's stomach feel a little painful. Lily was held in Mu Xiao's arms. The car outside had been prepared early in the morning. Everyone quickly got into the car. The door was closed and bullets rained down on the car, which was dangerous. Lily wiped the blood on her face and opened her mouth to vomit, but Mu Xiao warned, "If you dare to vomit in my car, I will throw you out of the car." This threat made Lily's chest surge violently, thinking of what he had just done during the murder and the act of kicking the child out of Fang Qiuxin's belly. Her heart felt cold at this moment, but she had to forcefully swallow what was already in her throat. This made her stomach feel more and more uncomfortable, and her face also changed. It looked ugly. "What's going on?" This was not Lily's question. Mu Xiao put his arm around her waist and nodded lightly with his fingers. He took the phone call from the bodyguard and dialed it. The butler on the other end seemed to be calling. He didn't want to explain anything to him. He snorted coldly, hung up the phone and threw it aside. Seeing Lily's livid face, he frowned. Women are really annoying. The slender and thin hands that were not stained gently patted Lily's back, looking at her bloody look. He turned his head away as if he was disgusted. "It's so dirty." At this moment, Lily had the urge to scold her mother. "I am really dirty like this." It's not that she has never killed someone before, but it's really disgusting to have people's blood sprayed all over her head. In the past, she shocked people to death with a palm and cut their throats with a knife and sprayed blood on her face. The feeling was completely different. Even now it wasn't the real person she killed, and there was more than one person she killed, but the feeling for Lily had never been as strong as this time. The feeling of her hand almost touching the cut and rolled up flesh was so disgusting. The key is Mu Xiao's expression when he kills someone. It's so cold and eerie that it's scary. Fang Qiuxin. Lily couldn't help but say. Although she didn't like Fang Qiuxin, and she did want to seek revenge on her, but Mu Xiao was too cruel to be a human being, and Fang Qiuxin still had a deep love for him. She wanted to get further away from Mu Xiao, and instinctively protected her belly. Lily knew that there might be something wrong with this child and was not suitable for birth, but aborting the child normally was completely different from the rough and direct method he used just now. You can tell how much pain she feels from Fang Qiuxin's expression. "Look at your little potential, you are so afraid of killing someone. If you were killed, wouldn't you be scared to death without even touching you?" Mu Xiao sneered and pushed Lily out of his arms. He opened his eyes with a look of interest on his face. "I don't know what the ending will be like for Special Assistant Fang. I'm really looking forward to it." When Lily was still confused about what Mu Xiao meant, she finally understood it 2 days later. Mu Xiao received a roll of tape, and after releasing it, Fang Qiuxin, who used to be aloof, was now tied to a leather leash around her neck like a dog, with a dull expression. She had no hair on her body. It had only been 2 days. She seemed to have changed. A middle-aged woman with an angry face stood in front of the screen and sneered. "Mu Xiao, if you dare to kill my husband, I will train your woman to be a bitch and she will never be able to transcend in this life." In front of the huge TV wall, Mu Xiao watched the scene with great joy. Unexpectedly, Fang Qiuxin, whom he regarded as a strong enemy, would be dealt with by the Hirayama family before Lily could really deal with her. The angry widow of Colonel Hirayama completed the task for Lily, making Fang Qiuxin's life worse than death, and on the other side, Du Jianyu, he originally wanted to coax Lily to show up, but Lily didn't even answer his call that day. He was used by Fang Qiuxin to take people to Mu Xiao's house. Fang Qiuxin had been working for Mu Xiao for many years, and as his most trusted person the special assistant used his identity at that time to cause Du Jianyu to cause turmoil. However, after the task was completed, Fang Qiuxin, who promised to pay him, disappeared. Du Jianyu called her on the phone many times, but nothing happened. Without this shortcut, Du Jianyu had to put all his hopes on Lily. He didn't dare to frame Lily to get benefits like before. Even though he didn't like Lily very much, but Lily was currently doing as the only person who could possibly help him enter Paris, he could only make Lily love him even more devotedly. But after Lily didn't answer his calls several times in a row, Du Jianyu finally understood that Lily didn't love him at all now. In desperation, he had no choice but to call Mu's house again, hoping to exchange Fang Qiuxin's secret with Lily, asking her to pay him a sum of money to leave. At this time, he could not contact Fang Qiuxin. Du Jianyu also understood that his move was a bad idea, but he was really cornered. But Lily already knew about this, so she ignored him at all, until one day Du Jianyu became famous for painting a nude portrait of his mother. Although people in this era are much more tolerant of things called works of art, there are many portraits of mothers, but not many nudes. Du Jianyu suddenly became popular, but unfortunately he gained a bad reputation. Like a rat crossing the street, he was reviled by others. The place where the Du family used to live was dug out and criticized. Du Jianyu finally disappeared with his parents in the city. He did not know where he went, but after several years, Lily once overheard Mu Xiao say that he had gouged out one of Du Jianyu's eyes and chopped off one of his hands, in the name of Fang Qiuxin. One can imagine how miserable Du Jianyu's life will be if he loses his passion for painting. To be continued. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 226. This time, the task was solved by mistake. Due to the influence of the drug, Lily failed to give birth to the child. Mu Xiao still looked gloomy and moody, but at least her position as Mrs. Mu's family was stable, and the Qin family was not affected by this. Li Yangzi, who always had a cold appearance in the starry sky, now had a look in his eyes that made people unable to understand. When he saw Lily, he nodded slightly to her. He didn't need to say anything about this mission, Lily knew that he was already done. The original owner is very satisfied and wants to give you some. Where do you want to add the total 2 attribute values? The original owner was such a timid and cowardly person. Lily did not expect that she would give herself some as a gift, but she just smiled slightly. After a while, he did not hesitate to add these 2 points to his spirit. The further into the later stage of the mission, the more she discovered that although the force value was very useful, the same spirit was equally useful. After the spirit power was low, she would be very susceptible to the influence of the original owner when completing the mission again. Especially as the difficulty of the task increases, the original owner almost feels more and more resentful, which of course has a greater impact on her. Gender, female, variable. Name, Lily. Age, 21. Intelligence, 65, out of 100. Appearance, 66, out of 100. Physical strength, 62, 100 full points. Force, 33, out of 100 points. Spirit, 25, out of 100 points. Reputation, 17, out of 100 points. Skills, 9 Yang Manual, 9 Yin Manual, Heaven and Earth Gate Tao Te Ching, Southern Gu Technique. Specialties, Intermediate Cooking Skills, Advanced Acting Skills, 5 Elements, and Bagua Skills. Charisma, 36, out of 100. Collection, Corpse King's Love, Saint's Blessing, Angel's Heart, Dragon King's Promise, Fox's Charm. Although not every attribute value increased significantly this time, Lily was already somewhat satisfied. She took a deep breath without hesitation. I want to enter the mission again. Start by discovering her. Li Yangzi just held the idea of having more people to do things for him. Originally, I didn't have much hope for Lily. But she has been able to make it all the way to this point, and she has performed very well, especially when they had different travel experiences, which made Li Yangzi face Lily a little more meaning that he couldn't explain. He heard Lily's words after saying this. There was silence for a moment. Are you sure you don't need to rest for a while? Lily has been able to hold on until now, and her psychology has not collapsed, and she has not been affected by the characters in the plot. It was beyond his expectation, but no matter how calm she acted at this time, Li Yangzi could still tell that she should have suppressed some of her negative emotions in her heart. No need. Lily glanced at Li Yangzi curiously, obviously not expecting that he would ask such a question, but she still shook her head. Facing the always cold lord of the starry sky, her expression softened a bit. I'm still just starting out. I started later than others. If I can't make up for it with diligence, why should I survive? She has always been self-aware, even if it's multiple missions. It didn't make her become arrogant and unable to see her true self. As soon as she said these words, Li Yangzi just remained silent for a moment and nodded. When her body seemed to be floating, Lily only saw his eyes before losing consciousness, as if she had seen them before somewhere. But as soon as this question came to her mind, her thoughts were quickly surrounded by darkness. Okay, don't hit her. When Lily just opened her eyes, she only felt several feet kicking on her body, and her hair was being picked up in the palm of her hand. The pain made her involuntarily take a breath. When she opened her eyes with a splitting headache, she only saw a group of girls in uniform surrounding her, so she couldn't hold her eyes any longer and closed them again. Yelan, she dares to talk back to you. Do you know who you are? You are just a bitch with both parents dead. She dares to make you unhappy. Even beating her is too small, a female voice said indignantly. She opened her mouth and seemed to be stamping her feet. You are giving her too much advantage by doing this. That's right, Yelan, a group of people responded. Lily closed her eyes, and her headache made her a little unbearable. At this moment, she didn't dare to let the huge memories and plots pour into her mind, for fear that if she was when receiving the plot, he was beaten unconscious by these girls, and he ended up with no plot again. She squinted her eyes and endured the pain in her body while listening to the movements around her. The girl who had just been called Yelan snorted disdainfully. Yun Yelan, don't need anyone to take care of my work. It's okay if she doesn't appreciate it. She's just a wretch. There's no need to beat her now. As soon as Yun Yelan opened her mouth, several girls naturally didn't dare to follow her. They all responded helplessly, and the sound of footsteps gradually faded away. Lily then rubbed her head and slowly opened her eyes. It seemed that this place should be behind a remote corridor. There was a strange smell coming from all around. She endured the pain in her eyes and looked around. There was a garbage dump over there. No wonder the smell was so special. Lily took a deep breath, and seeing that no one seemed to be coming over, she trembled and closed her eyes, taking in the memories and plot of this body. A lot of plots flooded into my mind, and in the gentle breeze, the girl's thin body rolled up into a ball in a remote and uninhabited corner, motionless as if she had fallen asleep. Until more than 3 hours later, the sky gradually darkened, and Lily then he opened his eyes, with a cold look in his eyes. This time she became a 17-year-old girl named Feng Lily who had just entered her second year of high school. When Feng Beihe was 8 years old, her parents died in an accident. The large amount of insurance money left behind was snatched away by Feng Beihe's grandparents in the name of keeping it for them. When Feng Lily was robbed of her own house, the young Feng Lily almost fought with them to save the house left by her parents. But from then on, she had a weird and gloomy temper, was unfilial and would become a social cancer in the future. Along with her, it became a nightmare that would never go away in her life. Logically speaking, even if Feng Lily's grandparents wanted to seize the inheritance left by their son and daughter-in-law, they would have other options, as long as they used the name of raising Feng Lily. Don't say it's just insurance money. Even if it is a house, they can easily get there. But the reason why they are unwilling to do this is that in addition to the house and insurance money left behind by Feng Lily's parents, the most important thing is that they also left behind a big trouble, that is, they are 8 years older than Feng Lily. The 20-year-old brother is fierce and vigorous. Feng Liang was born with underdeveloped brain when he was in his mother's womb. After he was born, he became a fool. Not only was he stupid, but he was so stupid that he had no IQ at all. He couldn't take care of himself even when he was eating, drinking, or eating. He didn't know how much he would eat in a meal. As long as there was something in front of him, he could mechanically stuff the food into his mouth. He didn't know how to stop even if he was almost exhausted. He is so stupid that he needs help from others to urinate and defecate. When he opens his eyes every day, he looks like a baby less than half a year old. He grins when he is happy, and starts crying when he is unhappy. When the Feng family and his wife were still alive, this stupid son made them worry until his death. Feng Bei he is fine, after all, she is just a girl. The worst case scenario would be for her to graduate from junior high school and go out to work on her own, but for a person like Feng Liang, she can't do anything and will cause endless trouble to others. In addition, he has been in poor health since he was a child. The reason is that serious and minor illnesses are constant, and the number of visits to the hospital throughout the year is more than the time spent in the park. Even if Feng Lily's grandparents want money again, if they have to deal with such a stupid grandson after taking the house, they will naturally. He refused to do it. Because of this, the Feng Lily siblings were kicked around by a group of relatives after their parents died. In the end, their parents' insurance money was divided up, but their siblings were left behind. Fortunately, Feng Lily fiercely saved the only house for her two siblings, so that they had a place of refuge and would not end up living on the streets. But she was young, had little money, and had a stupid brother. Every day, Feng Lily's life seemed to be plunged into endless darkness. She couldn't do much work when she was young, so she picked up her classmates in school. They pick up the pieces of paper thrown down by their classmates, pick up the mineral water bottles that their classmates have finished drinking, and earn money by running errands and copying homework for others. The young girl has shouldered the burden of life since she was 8 years old, earning a little money from these. The money was exchanged for food and drink for himself and Feng Liang. When she returned home, she had to coax Feng Liang, wash him, and wait for him to urinate and defecate. It was always rain or shine. It was not that she was not tired or afraid of crying, but because her parents were early. Feng Lily knew that no one would sympathize with her, so even when tears were in her eyes, she would not let them fall because she was not qualified to cry. This situation did not get better until Feng Bei entered high school and she was older. The situation of the two Feng brothers and sisters became slightly better. Because since Feng Lily grew up, in addition to picking up garbage on campus and selling it, she also started to work in some cafes and restaurants after school. After school at 6 o'clock in the evening, she would work 2 part-time jobs until going home at 12 o'clock in the night can ensure the tuition for the two of them, and save some money so that Feng Liang can take medicine when he is sick. Because of the special situation of the Feng family siblings, Feng Lily has been laughed at all the way up. She was laughed at school for picking up trash, and was laughed at home for having a stupid brother. Because of the strange eyes of others, this girl's heart, she is very sensitive and has low self-esteem. Even if others look at her strangely, she will lower her head, feeling both low self-esteem and timid. To be continued. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 227. After entering high school, Feng Bei worked too many part-time jobs and had to deal with her brother Feng Liang's endless noise when she returned home. Her academic performance was not good, so she was least liked by the teachers in school. After her sophomore year in high school, the head teacher looked at her like she was a cancerous tumor and wanted to dig her out. There is a girl named Yuan Yalan in the class. Unlike Feng Lily, who has a poor background and is introverted and has low self-esteem, she is a girl who is as aloof as a princess. It is said that she comes from a military and political family. Her grandfather, father, and her eldest brother, who is well known in Beijing and can be said to be the head of a group of prince Sealings, both hold important positions in the military. It turns out that Yelan's mother is a top political figure in the capital. She has an arrogant and willful temperament, is bright and cute, and has everything Feng Lily envies. The classmates in the class all like her and please her. Unlike others who look at Feng Lily with disgust and disgust like trash, when the classmates see Yuan Yelan, they all please her with respect, and she like a princess surrounded by stars, she lives a carefree and unrestrained life. Originally, there shouldn't be any intersection between two people from completely different worlds, but one time after Feng Lily picked up the water bottle that Yuan Yelan drank from, Yuan Yelan couldn't help but sneer when she saw it. This girl was originally introverted, timid and sensitive. Even though she put the water bottle back in the trash can, Yuan Yelan seemed to notice her from then on. Sometimes she would deliberately throw 2 unopened water bottles in the trash can to see if Feng Lily would do it. She seemed to have found new fun when she dared to pick it up. This kind of gameplay attracted the attention of the classmates. Whether in the eyes of the classmates or the teacher, Yuan Yelan even played a prank on Feng Lily. Everyone seemed to think it was natural. It even felt that Feng Lily could be treated like this by Yuan Yelan. It was her honor. No one would sympathize with her, and no one could say a good word for her. At first, the classmates were just laughing behind their backs, but then there was more garbage in Yuan Yelan's school bag and desk. At first, everyone's jokes were moderate. After all, they were all teenage boys and girls, but Lily did not dare to resist at all. After that, a group of classmates gradually became bolder. Not only did some people put snakes into Feng Lily's desk, but some people poured endless leftovers into her desk, and some even picked up feces and put them in the desk. Once Feng Lily reached into the desk to pick up a book. After catching a handful of excrement, I finally couldn't help crying. That time her books were contaminated, and the teacher asked her to stand outside the corridor without asking any questions. Her hands were extremely dirty, and Feng Lily would never forget the way the classmates passing by looked at her. The prank escalated later on. Until one time when Yuan Yelan discovered that 200 yuan seemed to be missing from her body, there was no doubt about it. All the classmates in the class thought she had stolen it. The teacher asked her to kneel down in front of Yuan Yelan and admit her mistake. The timid and inferior Feng Lily resisted fiercely for the first time. Although she had been poor since she was a child, she was so poor that she had self-esteem and backbone. She swore that she never stole Yuan Yelan's money. She begged the teacher to find out who stole the money, but Yuan Yelan said that she had never paid attention to her own money and that it was possible that money had been stolen before. After that, Feng Lily was completely left with no room to turn around. She is the poorest in the class. She wears tattered clothes that no one else wants. She has no money to buy new shoes. She even looks very pale due to years of malnutrition. It smelled like poverty. More importantly, she had a brother who needed money for medical treatment. Everyone seemed to believe that she had stolen the money. Seeing that she refused to admit it and refused to hand over the money, the teacher was furious and asked her to go home and think about her mistakes. And this is not the most serious blow. The most serious blow is that before Feng Lily noticed, her brother Feng Liang seemed to have started to change. He used to be such a stupid person, but suddenly he became more confident and domineering, as if he had changed into a different person, and he was no longer stupid. Feng Lily originally thought that she had taken care of her eldest brother every day for these years, often taking him to the hospital for check-ups, and when the medicine she gave him finally took effect, she didn't know that her eldest brother was no longer the original eldest brother. He was an immortal cultivator who traveled from another world. After the death of the other world, his soul came to this world, chose Feng Liang's body, and took him away. After taking over Feng Liang's body, the immortal cultivator began to transform his body, and slowly began to change into a different person. When Feng Lily didn't notice, he secretly sold the only property in the name of the two brothers and sisters. When Fen Lily was a little disappointed and sad about the changes after her eldest brother woke up, especially after his eldest brother became indifferent to her, Fen Liang met Yuan Yelan after being transported through time. The arrogant and willful Yuan Yelan, because she bullied Fen Lily, she met Fen Liang, and by chance she became his first woman. I was unintentionally worried about my elder brother and was about to go see him and let him go home so that I could take care of him, but I discovered the scene when Fen Liang was coaxing Yuan Yelan. Fen Lily was slandered by Yuan Yelan for stealing money, and in the end she was suspended from school and put under self-reflection. This was a devastating blow to a young girl. If she hadn't thought that her eldest brother still needed her care, she would have been wrongly accused at that time. Fen Lily almost wanted to jump off the building to prove her innocence, but now her eldest brother was actually with Yuan Yelan. Fen Lily was a little unbelievable, and at the same time, she felt as if she had been betrayed. She couldn't help but come forward to find him. Fen Liang asked, but in the end he only received a slap from Fen Liang. Because Fen Lily was the sister of her sweetheart, Yuan Yelan asked her head teacher to let Fen Lily go back to class. However, Fen Lily's ruined reputation could never be recovered. She would be regarded as a thief wherever she went. After that, she couldn't stand it anymore. At this time, once Fen Liang started to cultivate immortality, he became very brilliant. He accepted several women one after another. A group of outstanding women were willing to stay by his side. Fen Lily finally discovered there seems to be something wrong with her eldest brother. When she has no parents, no reputation, and even her studies may have been ruined by Yuan Yelan because of Yuan Yelan's so-called words about stealing her money, all she has left is an eldest brother. She wanted to find Fen Liang, but Fen Liang looked at her and thought she was a vain woman. He coldly said that if Fen Lily was willing to be his woman, he would stay. If not, if you give Fen Lily some benefits from now on, let her never appear in front of him again in her life. Fen Lily was greatly shocked that her eldest brother would actually say such words to her. Yuan Yelan overheard these words and was very resentful towards Fen Lily. She originally thought that Fen Lily didn't like her at all, because he bullied her when they were in school, and now it sounds like Fen Lily is shamelessly seducing her elder brother. Yuan Yelan understands in her heart that although Fen Liang has many women at this time, these women are not as good as him. The relationship between them is not deep, but Fen Lily is different. The two grew up together. Fen Lily and Fen Liang have been dependent on each other for many years. If Fen Lily becomes Fen Liang's woman, she will definitely become Fen Liang's woman in the future. How could Fen Liang's favorite little princess, the little princess of the Yuan family, tolerate such a thing? She asked people to start ostracizing Fen Lily even more in school, and refused to let Fen Lily see Fen Liang's face anymore. At the same time, she often asked people to scare her behind her back. It was not just a scare, but some people who wanted to please Yuan Yelan even did it themselves. He advocated beating Fen Lily sometimes. After a while, the girl who was already on the verge of collapse finally couldn't hold it back. Her relatives were no longer around. After so many years, her reputation was ruined and she was often hurt by others. All this brought huge psychological pressure to her. Although what Yuan Yelan did was not clever, it was just the tricks of some little girls. However, this kind of small tricks are useless against mature, stable and high-status people, but they are often used against Fen Lily. It works extremely well. When she wanted to call her eldest brother Fen Liang and get some comfort, she received a cold warning from Fen Liang, who had now become an immortal and gained both fame and fortune. Something she said unintentionally made her even more confused. Fen Liang thought she knew his secret and killed her with his own hands. But Fen Lily was very unwilling after her death, so she had two main wishes. One was to let everyone in the school know that although she was poor, she was not someone who made a living by stealing. She earned every penny herself, and even if she needed money again, she would not steal it. And the second thing is that she is unwilling to accept why her brother treats her like this. She wants to seek revenge on Fen Liang. To be precise, she wants to take revenge on Fen Liang after time travel, although she does not. I don't know that my brother has been transported through time. After clearing the thoughts in her mind, Lily finally took a long breath. It was still early at this time. She was only in her second year of high school. Although many of her classmates looked down upon her, they had not yet been targeted and bullied by Yuan Yelan, and they had not accused her of stealing money. But Fen Liang Lily at home is not sure whether he has been time traveled, because this is not explicitly mentioned in the plot, and she has to explore and discover everything by herself. Lily opened her eyes. She had just been beaten in the eye socket by a group of girls. She was still a little aching. The corners of her mouth were in burning pain when she moved. The skin should have been broken. A group of high school sophomore girls were showing no mercy when they hit people. Even more ruthless than many boys. This should be the school's garbage dump. Fen Lily usually goes to this place after school at noon to look for any old books and scraps of paper thrown away by her classmates. Wait, tie them into bundles and then sell them. Lily is naturally not ready to pick them up now. To be continued. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 228. In fact, the money Fen Lily earns from her part-time job is enough to support herself, but because Fen Liang is there, she seems to be very poor. Fen Liang is not in good health and has to go to the hospital at least 4 or 5 times a month. I have been suffering from colds, and ailments all the time, and I have to go to the hospital for $200 to $300 a month. Even if Fen Lily tries her best to save money, it is not enough. But Lily is not ready to take care of Fen Liang anymore at this moment, and naturally she is not ready either. Work as hard as Fen Lily before. She didn't want to take good care of Fen Liang's body, lest the practitioner from another world take advantage of her in the future. She patted her butt and stood up. There were several frightening bruises on her thighs that made Lily frown. It was not easy to deal with Yuan Yelan. After all, when the status of the two of them was not equal, it was difficult to get Yuan Yelan to stop. It is not easy to bully yourself again, but what is even more difficult is Fen Liang. The immortal cultivator is not a fool, he kills without blinking an eye, and he keeps saying that the immortal cultivator must abandon his emotions and become ruthless, so he kills without blinking an eye, except for treating his own woman a little bit. In addition to being humane, he uses brutal methods to deal with other people. But what makes Lily feel comforted is that it was mentioned in the plot that in this era, due to the thin spiritual energy, Fen Liang was actually very slow to cultivate immortality after traveling through time. If it weren't for his powerful soul, the original owner Fen Liang would be a fool. For this reason, he took over this body so easily that he had more than half of his strength left to transform the body. He reached the so-called early stage of chi refining and possessed some simple spells, which looked particularly amazing. In fact, although these spells look fresh and have some magical powers. But in terms of strength, it doesn't necessarily mean how strong it is. Even after completing his spells, Fen Liang could only use some wind blades to hurt people at most. He couldn't kill anyone, but he was not very lucky. He met women who were beneficial to him one after another. Using the resources of these women, he made more and more money, and finally achieved his own career. Lily made some calculations in her mind. This time she was not suitable for practicing advanced martial arts. She planned to learn the 9 Yang manual slowly. First, you can practice the 9 Yin manual and the Tao Te Ching together. Although I don't know if Fen Liang's situation is considered a ghost resurrecting his body, but I hope it will have some effect on him, as long as he is prevented from practicing magic in the first place. Delay him for a few more years, wait until you can practice martial arts and no longer be afraid of him. At noon, the original owner had to go home to cook for Fen Liang and then rush to class. Lily was also planning to go back and take a shower to fill her stomach. When he returned to Feng's house, the house was deserted. Feng Liang was tied up in the living room when he heard Lily coming back. He grinned at her and said with a silly look, "Hey, at this age." He actually couldn't speak yet, and his eyes looked unusually clear in black and white, which made Lily stunned. His eyes were as clean as a baby's, and his face was fair and handsome, but unfortunately he was a little silly. Hungry, hungry, hungry. Feng Liang struggled twice. In the past, because he was too stupid and didn't even know some basic safety knowledge, Feng Lily was afraid that he would hurt herself, so she often didn't dare to let him go. She stayed alone in the house and tied him up when she went out to prevent Feng Liang from hurting her someday. This behavior also became one of the excuses for future travelers to treat her coldly, because Feng Liang had no memory. The reason is that the time traveler thought that Lily was abusing his original body and wanted to avenge him, so he was very cold and mean to Lily. Seeing that silly face at this moment, although she knew that she shouldn't be angry at an adult who was as big as a baby, Lily still couldn't help but feel a little bored and felt some sympathy for the original owner. There was a stink in the room. Feng Liang's pants were wet. He must have defecated inside. Every time he struggled, the stink came out. As soon as Lily closed the door, her brows suddenly stood up. After untying the rope that bound him, Feng Liang stood up happily. The pants were still pressed tightly against his body, and a big puddle was wet on the wooden chair. "Go to the bathroom," Lily ordered with a cold face. Feng Liang stared at her with big eyes, as if he didn't understand what she was saying. In the past, Feng Lily would never bear to see her brother's eyes like this, but Lily is different. After experiencing so many missions, she knows that even the most unintelligent beast, as long as he is taught a fixed behavior pattern, he will be able to behave in a certain way in the future. Feng Lily would also do this. Feng Lily had spoiled her eldest brother too well in the past, but now Lily didn't want to take care of her eldest brother like she did, so she pointed in the direction of the toilet and said it again. "Go to the toilet." Huh, Feng Liang glanced at Lily with some confusion, and then started to cry again, "Hungry, hungry." Lily looked around without saying anything. When she saw a shovel, she took the shovel and slapped it on Feng Liang's leg. Feng Liang, who had never been beaten before, was frightened and cried. He became more fierce. He originally wanted to run, but because he had been tied up all morning, his legs had no strength at all. After being beaten by Lily and lying on the ground, he cried until his eyes were red. Finally, he finally understood what Lily was doing. I went to the toilet shivering." "Take off your pants." After just a while, Lily was already out of breath from exhaustion. She didn't know how Feng Lily persisted in the past. Facing an adult man who couldn't even take care of himself, Feng Lily didn't know how to persist in the past. She had suffered so much, and it was precisely because of this that Feng Liang's indifference to her after time travel made her feel particularly sad, as if the sky had fallen. After 2 more convulsions, he cried and took off his pants. Sure enough, he became incontinent on the chair. Lily resisted the nausea and asked him to squat in front of the toilet to wash his body, and at the same time asked him to rub his pants too. Feng Liang cried so hard that his nose and tears flowed, and now he looked at Lily's eyes with a little fear. After cleaning up everything, Lily found his pants again and asked him to put them on, and told him to sit on the chair obediently and not move. She also took a quick bath. She just went into the kitchen to prepare the meal. When she brought it out, she saw the wind. Li Yang was incontinent while sitting on the chair again. She took a deep breath and asked Feng Liang to go into the toilet again to wash his pants. Maybe it was because of what Lily had just taught him, but he obediently lowered his head and went into the toilet to wash his pants, which was timid. He changed into clean clothes and came out. "From now on, I have to go to the toilet and wash my pants after I wet myself. When I'm not at home, except for going to the toilet. I can't go anywhere, I can't touch anything, I can only sit on a chair. Lily is not going to be like the original owner again. Although she tied him up as a helpless act to care about him, it did not help his condition. Now that she has a brother like the original owner, Lily has now taken over the body of the original owner. What should she do? Things should naturally be done. Feng Liang looked at the chopsticks she raised and nodded timidly. After dinner, Lily told him to sit on the chair and not move. It took him a long time to tell him what going to the toilet meant. Although Feng Liang was stupid, if he was taught one thing repeatedly, even if he didn't understand it in his heart, what does it mean, but he will actually do it. Lily was deeply afraid that he wouldn't know it yet, so she deliberately tried it again and asked him to go to the toilet. Seeing that although he looked stupid, he had learned this at least, and his heart he breathed a sigh of relief. In the afternoon, Feng Liang taught Feng Liang at home. Lily didn't even go to school. The Feng family was extremely poor. Except for the house left by the Feng family's parents, they had no other property. The name of this house was Feng Liang. Although Feng Beihe was stupid, because Feng Beihe was young and didn't even have his own ID card, it was naturally impossible to own real estate. The immortal cultivator from another world also relied on selling the Feng family's property. The house where he started his journey to make a fortune. Lily was not going to give the money from selling the house to the time traveler. She was going to sell the house first. Although the Feng family brothers and sisters live in poverty in the capital, this house is worth nearly 1 million. Although the area is not large, the location is not too bad, and I have heard about this house several times. There are rumors that the city is about to be developed, so the housing prices here are not bad. In the past, Feng Lily wanted to keep some roots, but was afraid that her brother would lose a foothold in the future, so she refused to sell the house even though she held on. If you can't do it anymore, use this house to replace your brother with someone who can take care of him. Lily rested for a day, and went directly to the agency with the real estate certificate the next day. Because the house here was to be developed, almost no one was willing to sell it at this time. In addition, the price Lily wanted was not much, so a buyer soon came to the door. After negotiating the full payment of 900,000, the transfer took only 3 days to complete. The buyer did not need to live in this house. Seeing that Beihe was very happy to sell the house and the price was cheap, it was agreed that the two brothers and sisters would live in the house before the house was demolished. Lily was naturally happy to have a sum of money and save the cost of renting a house. Moreover, with this 900,000 yuan, she would no longer have to work as hard as the original owner, nor would she have to pick up trash in school, which the original owner hated the most. The reason why she was wrongly accused of stealing money and no one said anything good for her after it happened was not only because of her poor grades, but also because it was Yuan Yelan who disliked her and she was poor. Although poverty is not a crime, in this era, it is still looked down upon by people. It seems that because she is poor, someone in the class steals money, and they think it is her. Because she needs money, she is a thief. To be continued. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 229. After settling things at home, Lily returned to school. Compared with the original owner who was afraid of school but was unwilling to do so, Lily could understand that feeling from the remaining feelings in her body, but Lily was not afraid. Although she was not the smartest, but with the improvement of her IQ and the fact that she had attended high school in the past, as long as she worked harder in high school, she would not be able to win back her studies. As long as she was given 2 months, she was no longer anxious now. When she needed money, she concentrated on studying, and it was not impossible for her to improve her grades. As soon as Lily came to school, she went to the teacher's office first. She didn't come to class for several days. As she expected, no one in the school noticed that she didn't come. When Lily came to the office, The teacher saw when he reached her, his face suddenly darkened, and he said with some boredom, "The bell is about to ring, why are you still here and not going into the classroom? You poor students are like this, dragging everyone down like pests' legs. If you are not good at studying, then don't come to school. Why come to study if you have no money? Just go work. School is a place for studying, not a place for you to pick up trash. It's embarrassing." This teacher is the head teacher of Lily's class. She is a middle-aged woman named Huang who has been teaching for many years. I heard that her husband is serving in the education committee and has a very strong connection. Therefore, even if she forced Feng Lily to die, she would not do it at all. There was nothing to be afraid of. At this moment, she didn't like Lily in the first place, and she wanted to please the little princess of the original family, so Lily's expression was naturally colder. After snorting in disgust, she waved her hand. "Let Lily go." Lily stood still. Teacher Wang's face looked a little ugly. After sneering, she raised her head and was about to speak, but Lily asked her coldly, "Didn't the teacher see the scars on my body? They were beaten by several female classmates in the class. If the teacher doesn't help me to seek justice, I will go to the TV station and let people see the injuries on my body. I'm afraid the teacher will have 10 mouths to explain, right?" Teacher Huang didn't expect that the usually timid student would now learn to threaten her. She frowned and stared at Lily. Sure enough, she found the scars at the corners of her eyes and mouth, especially the eye sockets that had not dissipated. They looked yellow and green and very scary. Although she knew that the classmates in the class didn't like this Feng Lily, but because Feng Lily didn't knowing how to complain, and since she had no background, Teacher Huang naturally pretended not to know, but she didn't expect that the student, who had always been like a gourd with its mouth cut off, would actually learn to complain and not say anything. Moreover, the words also contained the intention of threatening her, and Teacher Wang's face became a little ugly. "What do you mean? Is there any evidence that someone else hit you?" Lily took out a brand new smartphone. He waved it in front of Teacher Huang. "Teacher, look, I have already recorded it. I don't want much. It's okay if those classmates don't want to apologize to me, but this is not the first time that I have been bullied by them, so I ask them to compensate me. I have taken photos, and some of them are already at home. These are evidence. Does the teacher want to see them?" She actually bought the mobile phone after she sold her house and had money, but Teacher Huang didn't know that. When she saw Lily taking out the mobile phone, she subconsciously asked, "Where did you get the mobile phone? Where did you get the money? Yes. Wasn't it stolen? I came to school to learn reading, not to steal money." What the teacher said was so funny. Did the teacher teach me to steal money? Lily couldn't help laughing. She didn't explain the origin of her mobile phone. This sentence made Teacher Wang's face turn green, and then he said again, "I have always been bullied by my classmates, and I don't want to bear it anymore. I am an orphan and have no choice but to come to the teacher to complain. I ask those classmates who have beaten me, each person will compensate me 5,000 yuan, which is not a high request, otherwise I will ask the teacher to send me to the hospital for a full body examination to ensure that there is nothing wrong with my body. People say that those who are barefoot are not afraid of those who wear shoes." In the past, although the head teacher looked down on Feng Lily, now that Lily is shameless, she has no choice. Most of the people who study in this school, especially those in her class, have some background, and many of the children's families are well known, so there is no psychological pressure when bullying Feng Lily, a child of ordinary background, but Feng Lily used to forget about being timid. Now I don't know what kind of medicine she took, but she dared to ask for compensation. If she wanted to make a fuss, many people would not dare to make a fuss because they cared about their face. Naturally, Teacher Huang did not dare to make fun of her own reputation, so in her heart she felt Lily felt more and more bored, but said, "You go back to the classroom first." I will discuss it with the parents of these students and talk to you later. In fact, as long as the original owner is shameless, even if the children of this age are a little mischievous, they are not all desperados, and they will not force the original owner to die from the beginning. Lily resisted now, and the head teacher felt frightened. After agreeing to her request, he allowed her to go back to the classroom. When the students in the classroom saw Lily coming in, many of them whistled, and after exchanging malicious looks, everyone laughed. Lily didn't have a desk mate because no one wanted to sit with a girl like her who picked up trash. Because of this, the class teacher simply arranged her next to the trash can in the corner of the classroom and laughed at her because she liked it so much. Trash fulfilled her wish. At that time, because of the sarcastic words of the head teacher, the original owner could not hold her head up for a long time. Lily didn't take it seriously at this time. She walked towards her lonely position, and a girl sitting in the row in front of her turned her head with a smile. "Fen Lily, where have you been these past 2 days? Do you know that we have missed you? We haven't seen you. There is one less garbage picker in the classroom. No one has picked up the things Yelan threw," she said. As soon as the words were spoken, everyone burst into laughter. Yun Yelan, who was sitting in the middle of the classroom, also turned around and laughed. She supported her chin with one of her white wrists. Even though she was several meters away, Lily could still see it. With her smooth jade face and jade-carved nails, she looked like a pampered child. There was a stench coming from her desk. Last time, because she left at noon and did not come to class, her things were not taken away. Now the lock on the desk was picked open, but it is conceivable that the contents inside cannot be saved. Lily smiled slightly, lowered her head, and pulled the desk open. A stack of books was now covered in a layer of disgusting stuff, and the smell came from there. The girl sitting in front was still staring at her with a sarcastic smile on her face. Lily vaguely remembered that this was one of the girls who had beaten her last time, and she was usually the one who pleased Yun Yelan the most. She glanced into the trash can next to her and saw a used plastic bag thrown by others. She picked it up. The girl in front of her smiled like a crescent moon. "Look, the captain of the poop picking team is here again. We'll start work as soon as we arrive, brothers and sisters, let's give her some benefits as soon as possible." As soon as the girl finished speaking, everyone in the classroom burst into laughter. Someone took out the scraps that had been prepared and was about to throw them at Lily. Lily quickly took out the book inside and rushed forward in a hurry. The girl covered her face. "Ah!" A piercing scream rang out. The girl seemed to be going crazy and reached out to take away the thing covering her face. Her originally delicate and white face was covered with a layer of paste and was already a little dry. The animal pooped, and now it couldn't open its eyes. It looked very embarrassed. It opened its mouth and retched twice. Everyone was stunned when they saw this scene. Lily threw the thing in her hand at the girl's face, and then smiled contemptuously. "Don't fool me with this garbage in the future. I will pick up your garbage too." She seemed to have changed. The group of boys and girls were all stunned. The movements of their hands stopped, and no sound came out of their mouths. For a while, the only thing heard in the classroom was the girl whose face was covered with excrement. The girl screamed and cried and vomited. After a while, someone looked outside and shouted, "Teacher Huang is here." When the girl heard this, she wiped her face with her hands, looked at her jade-like little hands, turned her head and glanced at Lily bitterly, then suddenly opened her mouth and ran away crying with a loud wow. "Teacher, Fen Lily is bullying someone." Someone stood up and made a small report first, pointed at Lily, and told her what had just happened. The head teacher's brows suddenly furrowed. He looked at Lily as if he was seeing a cancer, with a look of boredom on his face. "Fen Lily, can you calm down a little? If people like you don't want to study, get out of the classroom." The middle-aged woman's expression was very stern. When everyone thought that Lily must not be able to bear such a tone, she seemed not to hear it, sat down again, and seemed to be surprised. "General, oh, the 500 yuan I put in the classroom is missing. Someone stole it from me." Hearing that she had lost her money, everyone couldn't help laughing. A girl who usually followed Yuan Yelan said sarcastically, "Are you rich too? You are just as poor as you." The class teacher couldn't help but want to laugh. Lily glanced at the girl who was talking and said with a hint, "I really don't have much money now, but I will have money soon." "Classmate Wang, I remember you beat me, but you haven't found it yet. Are you paying for the medical expenses?" "Won't I get money once you pay?" Her confident words stunned the girl who spoke. Yuan Yelan, who was sitting and watching the fun, frowned and took a handful of food from her drawer. He pulled out his bag, took out a wallet from it and then took out a wad of money. "Take it, consider it as compensation." The stack of money seemed to be nearly 1,000 yuan. Even most of the classmates in the class came from a rich background, but when they saw that Yuan Yelan would give money to Lily, they all felt a little sad. "Ms Yuan, you dare to ask for money, but it's up to you, are you worthy of it?" To be continued. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan Erwr. Chapter 230. Lily ignored it and went up to take the money. She counted the money as if she was deliberately disgusting Yuan Yelan. The arrogant girl was so angry that her brows stood up, and then she put the money in her bag and turned back to her seat. After Lily's shameless behavior, many people in the class had a worse impression of her, but Lily didn't care at all. Anyway, these people had never liked her, and she didn't need others to like her, so she ignored all these people's gazes. I don't know if it was because of her previous risk-taking performance, but the head teacher was also afraid of causing trouble. After school, he called her to the office. After personally counting 2,000 yuan to her, he said with an impatient look, "Fen Lily, don't think that the lion will ask for tens of thousands. That's impossible. Since Yelan gave you 1,000 yuan today, you can take another 2,000 from me to heal your injury. From now on, pretend this never happened." "But teacher, my books were contaminated by my classmates and my desk was dirty." "Since the teacher only gave me 2,000 yuan, you have to take care of these things for me, right?" Lily swung her feet and looked like she was sitting still. The look on his face made the head teacher's expression even more ugly, and he turned his face away. "You don't have to worry about these. I will prepare new school bags and stationery for you. It's just that the impact of picking up garbage is not good. If you continue to do this, I will apply to the school to expel you from school." Today, teacher Huang suffered a big loss. Lily also knew that this woman had reached the edge of endurance. It was best to stop things in moderation. She came to vent her anger and gain reputation for the original owner. She did not want the original owner to be expelled from school and have a worse reputation, so she agreed. With a cry, he accepted the offer and walked out with the money. "When I went home after buying groceries, there was a strong wind at home, but he still put his hands on his legs obediently, sitting motionless in the room. Lily has achieved good results in training him in the past 2 days. As the old saying goes, a pig will know where to poop and pee after being taught a few times. There is no reason why humans can't do it. Even if Feng Liang is stupider than ordinary people, he is still dumber than ordinary people. He is still a human being, and he will understand after being taught a few times." After Lily checked that he hadn't wet his pants, she gave him a rare smile. Patting his head, "Be good," as she said this, she took out the lollipop she bought when she went to the supermarket from her pocket, peeled off the candy wrapper and stuffed it into Feng Liang's mouth. She was still stern just now. The man with the same face grinned in a short time. After spending a few days with Feng Liang, although this man was a bit stupid and had caused a lot of trouble to the original owner before, That was actually not what he wanted. He was just sick. Lily didn't like him at first. But after spending a few days with him, I started to sympathize with him. Now look at him eating a lollipop with a satisfied look on his face. She sighed and asked Feng Liang to sit obediently and not drool on her collar, then went inside to cook. When she came to this world, she definitely wanted to practice martial arts and Taoism in order to fight against the time travelers. But in addition to attacking herself, Lily also wanted to attack Feng Liang. Now she has a lot of money. To be honest, even if Feng Liang continues to be a fool like this all his life, as long as she has some capital, she can start any small business in the future and get a job after graduation. But it is not impossible to support him, but the prerequisite for such a life is it was him who didn't want to be transported through time. Lily sighed, and suddenly something came to mind. In the Tao Te Ching of the Heaven and Earth sect, in addition to the chapter on mental formulas, there is also a chapter on dealing with demons and ghosts. In modern terms, the practitioner is called time travel, but in a certain aspect, is he actually also a ghost? A kind of borrowing one's body to return yang? Although she doesn't know how to cultivate immortality, she does know how to control ghost possession and how to deal with these evil spirits. No matter whether it works or not, she will always give it a try. In the next few days, Lily studied hard during the day, and began to practice Taoism when she returned home at night. She had plenty of money now, and buying talisman paper and cinnabar was not a problem at all. Because there was no normal person at home except for her. Because of people, Feng Liang can be dismissed easily by her, so it can be said that no one can stop her from practicing Taoism. In this way, within 1 or 2 months, the talisman drawn by Lily has some spiritual power. It's fluttering. Not knowing when the time traveler would come over, Lily calculated that the plot should start in the second semester of the original owner's sophomore year of high school, which was still more than half a year away. At this time, the first semester of the sophomore year of high school had just started less than 3 months ago, and there was still enough time, so Lily did not miss out on the 9 Yang manual, the 9 Yin manual and the Gu technique. The houses here are in an old residential area. Many residents have moved out, and the environment is not like many developed areas. You can still hear the chirping of insects in remote corners of the building at night, especially since it is summer. There are plenty of snakes, insects, rats and ants, so Lily still sneaks out quietly every night to collect these things with the mentality of giving it a try. Half a semester later, Lily's fierce and rebellious behavior made her classmates no longer dare to treat her like before, and instead they became alienated from her. Because of this, Lily was less troubled. In the first semester of her sophomore year of high school, after the monthly exam, although she was not among the top 10 in her class, half a year of hard work paid off. She was ranked among the 50 in her grade and among the top 20 in the class. Such achievements made the class teacher no longer look at her as bored as before, and it was rare that he even gave her an extra smile before the holiday. Lily spent the entire winter vacation busy, and she found a way to do Taoism and martial arts. More importantly, she remembered that there was a magic method in Gu magic that could strengthen the human soul. She didn't know if there was one. But now she only has a dead horse as a living horse doctor. The time traveler could easily take over Feng Liang's body. On the one hand, it was because he was a cultivator and his soul was stronger than ordinary people. On the other hand, he was a cultivator. There is also the reason that Feng Liang is a fool and his soul resistance is not high. After Lily gained some Taoist skills, she drew talismans on Feng Liang every day. Although she didn't know if the effect was great, she still did it every day. She would try it out and would often feed Feng Liang to eat some of the bugs she had cultivated. Fortunately, normal people would not eat these things, but Feng Liang ignorantly followed her instructions. Anyway, until the beginning of the second semester of his second year of high school, Feng Liang had no sign of being traveled through time. Before school started, Lily collected another batch of bugs and raised them with her own essence and blood. Her current body is due to practicing martial arts and Taoism, so the bugs fed with blood are better than the ones raised with ordinary blood. The previous batch of goo worms seemed to be almost mature. Lily closed the lid again and allowed the last few worms to devour each other before drawing the talisman paper on Feng Liang's body again. At the beginning of the new semester, everyone walked into the classroom in twos and threes. When Lily entered the classroom, many people barely recognized her. Her long hair was tied up, because her life in the past 6 months has not been as miserable as before, so her complexion looks much better. Her complexion has returned to the whiteness unique to a girl, and the heavy flow in the past has also been tied up by her. Revealing her full forehead, many students discovered that this classmate who used to have her head lowered and could not even recognize her face actually did not look as vulgar as everyone imagined. Although her figure still had the youthful look of a girl, she was dressed in the high school uniform still gave her a different look from others. Among a group of childish girls, Lily seems to have a kind of stability and calmness that young people don't have. However, when she looks at people, the corners of her oval eyes are raised, and she seems to have a hint of charm. Her somewhat cold face is matched with this hint. Charming, even if the male students in the class couldn't explain what this feeling was called, it still didn't stop them from quickly changing their views on Lily. For a while, because Lily had changed so much, and perhaps because the class had just started and it was still fresh, no one came to trouble Lily in the first 2 days, until half a month later. The school has just started for a few days, and the school is organizing a spring outing. Because almost most of the students in Teacher Wang's class are rich, this spring outing is naturally not like ordinary classes, just going to the park. After much discussion, Yuan Yelan paid out 50,000 yuan and invited everyone in the class to a famous hot spring village on the outskirts of the city for 2 nights and 3 days. This hot spring city was originally a barren mountain. After someone dug out hot springs there a few years ago, the land suddenly became hot and was bought by several wealthy businessmen and powerful people in Beijing. A resort has been built, and the fees are very expensive. Even those with a well-off family may not be able to stay there for a few days. Because of the good environment and good service, it is often difficult to get a ticket, and almost everyone who greets them is he was a dignitary, and many people couldn't help but get excited when they heard that they could travel there. Teacher, I'm sorry, I can't go. When everyone was having a heated discussion about going to the hot spring village to play, Lily thought of Feng Liang and said something to Teacher Huang, who was registering and arranging everyone's accommodation. As soon as she finished speaking, she looked a little surprised. Her female classmates who didn't like her naturally sneered, but at the same time, because of Lily's change in appearance, some of her male classmates who had a changed impression of her also became anxious. Fen Lily, go ahead, there is usually plenty of money there. You can't even go. It's rare for Yelan to treat you now, so let's go and have fun. I heard that Yelan's uncle is there, so we can take advantage of this trip. The resort is not open to the public on weekdays. It is a rare opportunity to have such an opportunity. The students in the class are very excited. Naturally, they are a little disdainful of Lily's ignorance. When some people were about to ridicule, Lily just smiled. Teacher, I still have a brother at home. I have to take care of him. He can't go anywhere. It's not that I don't want to give you an Yelan face. To be continued. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 231. It is not a secret that Feng Lily has a stupid brother. Lily is not afraid of others knowing now and directly speaks out. On the contrary, it makes some people who want to ridicule her feel embarrassed to speak again. Feng Lily, let's go together. Anyway, I have already said hello to my family on this trip. A large part of the resort will be vacant. There will definitely be extra rooms by then. You might as well send your brother in too. Let's bring them together. Yuan Yelan, who was originally aloof, suddenly smiled at Lily and pursed her lips. "Let's come together, don't spoil the fun." Although Yuan Yelan was smiling at the moment, there was already a bit of displeasure in her eyes. Obviously, she could not tolerate Lily's refusal anymore. Feng Lily's original wish was not to offend someone, so after she was wrongly accused of stealing money, everyone was blaming her. Lily was not prepared to offend everyone. Thinking about it, it was only 3 days. Based on her popularity in the class, no one might be willing to live with her. In fact, I was still free to move, but it was not as convenient as at home, so I kept silent. "Okay, now that everyone has decided, let's gather on Friday night and go back and pack our things." Teacher Huang clapped his hands and persuaded the group of happy students to retreat. Lily had previously slapped her with excrement on her face. The girl gathered around Yuan Yelan, not knowing what she was talking about. She would look back at Lily from time to time, with a look of resentment on her face. Lily didn't take her ugly face to heart. On the day she went out, besides packing some clothes for herself and Feng Liang, she only took her own jar of bugs and some tools for drawing charms. Caught in a group of luggage. Put them together in the suitcase. When we got to school, the car is already ready. It was also provided by Yuan Yelan. Everyone had already occupied the good seats in 2s and 3s. When the Lily brothers and sisters came over, they only got into the back of the car. Although the classmates in the class had also heard that Lily's eldest brother was a fool, most of them saw him for the first time. Now they saw Feng Liang, who had a handsome appearance. Although he seemed silent, he was a bit quiet and well behaved. But when everyone saw that he was twisting the suitcase, he didn't look like a fool, so they couldn't help but look at him curiously. The car drove all the way to the destination. When it came, Lily had already greeted Feng Liang and told him not to move around casually. He put his hands on his legs. He stayed there all the way, thinking of his sister who was so fierce and wanted to hit someone. Not even daring to take a breath, Lily pulled her coat to cover her body. To others she might be sleeping, but in fact she started practicing the exercises with her eyes closed. When entering the resort, because of the late departure, it was already getting dark. The village was brightly lit at night. It had a kind of exquisiteness that was not inferior to the city but also had a kind of quietness that was hidden from the world. Because it was summer, there was a sound coming from the grass. Insects were chirping, and after getting off the car from the sweltering heat, the wind blew, making people feel refreshed. A group of students were laughing, shouting and dancing, looking around curiously. The service staff of the resort had already received the notice from above. They were at the entrance and respectfully said hello to Yelan before anyone came. He stepped forward to carry the luggage of a group of students and sent them into the room. Because there is one more female student in Miss Yuan's class, only Miss Wang Feng has to live in a room by herself. It has been arranged now. Please come with me. A waiter nodded to Lily and led the way. She went upstairs. The environment here was indeed a place for the entertainment of the powerful, so everything looked exquisite. Even some of the lawns could be seen to have been carefully cared for and trimmed, and they looked very beautiful. Lily doesn't mind living in a room by herself. Feng Liang lives next door to her. A group of classmates live in the hot spring villa on the other side. They have all made appointments in 2s and 3s. The room where Lily and her sister live alone doesn't look like much. But the scene of being rejected is something that people can see at a glance. But this was just what Lily wanted. She didn't come out here to soak in any hot springs, but she heard that the hot spring village here is right behind the mountain. There are a lot of snakes, insects, rats, and ants on summer nights. She has already caught all the places in the capital where she can catch bugs. She can change the environment and catch more bugs, and go out without being disturbed by others to practice, so she is willing to bring Feng Liang out, and it can also make the original owner come out. The class is not so unsociable, and it kills two birds with one stone. At night, the windows in the room are open, and you can hear the laughter outside. The sky is getting dark, but no one cares whether the two brothers and sisters have eaten or not. Lily spent a long time drawing talismans in the room, and after mixing the cinnabar then he went out and knocked in Feng Liang's room. Feng Liang looked at what she was holding in her hand. He was used to it these days, so he obediently took off his clothes and let her draw the talisman. There were still traces of the Taoist talisman at first, and gradually disappeared into his body. Feng Liang waited for Lily to finish painting, and then said cautiously, "Sister, I'm hungry." Lily teaches him when she has time these days, teaches him some simple things, and treats him like a child. She has done several tasks and has some experience in raising children. Sometimes Feng Liang doesn't listen, so she takes a few thin bamboo slices, he can remember them even if they hurt. Now he knows that when he sees an older woman, he calls her aunt, when he sees a young woman, he calls her sister, and when he sees a young woman, he calls her sister. He will no longer live a completely stupid life like before. He looks like he can't take care of himself anymore. Lily nodded. Yuan Yelan and others intended to isolate her, but fortunately she had money. She led Feng Liang downstairs to the restaurant and ordered food for herself. When sending him back to the room, she told him to watch TV for a while. After falling asleep, he returned to his room. Time passed slowly, and Lily waited until it was almost 2 or 3 in the morning, then changed her clothes, took a jar of bugs, and then left the door. The entire hot spring villa was no longer as lively as it was during the day, and was extremely quiet. Lily carefully avoided the radiation of electronic infrared rays. After leaving the village, she looked in the right direction and walked towards the mountains. This season was full of bugs. During the season, there are especially many bugs in the mountains. As soon as the lily sprinkled the powder to attract bugs, it didn't take long for many bugs to crawl over one after another. Many bugs got into the jar and lay down quietly and stopped moving. Lily sat watching from the sidelines. He carefully controlled his breathing and practiced his internal skills. She didn't know how long it had passed, but there were already a lot of bugs crawling in the jar, one by one squirming, but she heard a series of footsteps. It sounded like there were 5 or 6 people. The footsteps were very messy. There should be more from here. The distance of several tens of meters was just because she had sharpened her ears and eyesight after practicing internal skills, and it was quiet at night, so she could hear it more clearly. Lily was not prepared to care about it, but suddenly she heard a sharp sound coming from someone yelling, then footsteps became noisy, a man made a muffled sound, and then there was the sound of heavy objects falling to the ground. Lily opened her eyes, patted the grass clippings on her body, stood up, and walked in the direction where she just heard the sound. There sat a young man with clenched teeth and sweating profusely. He was tearing off the hem of his clothes and trying to tie his feet. Under the lifted trouser legs, strands of blood were pouring out of the 2 holes in his calves. He seemed to hear a noise. The young man raised his head. He has short, board-like hair, a piercing gaze, sharp and thick eyebrows, a pair of big eyes that are now bloodshot, and a resolute chin that is tightened, showing a bit of momentum. Obviously he didn't expect that someone would come from the mountain at this time. The young man frowned a little and glanced at Lily warily. The muscles in his cheeks were already twitching a little now, and he was obviously enduring the pain before. It was painful, but he did not cry out. There were 2 severed snake corpses next to his body. His head was trampled to pieces and crushed into the mud. At this moment, his tail was still shaking gently. He looked young. Of men were bitten by it. A cried Lily squatted in front of the man, twisting up her trembling tail and taking a look, with a look of pity on her face. "I met you here, I should have attracted it." Lily, his brows furrowed. Krites are rare in the mountains. If you can feed the poison would be the best. He should have been attracted by the smell of the powder she spread. Unfortunately, he couldn't go to the place she arranged. They were alarmed by the group of people just now and died here before they could reach their destination. The young man frowned and glanced at Lily. Did you attract him? The corners of his mouth were still twitching when he spoke. Even though he was sweating profusely, Lily could still see the youthfulness in him. Underneath that face is a rather handsome face. Although this group of people came into the mountain in the middle of the night, they were looking for death, but after all, the matter had something to do with themselves. It would be okay if they didn't come over. Now that they really saw it, it couldn't be justified if they ignored it. Lily stretched out her hand and touched his leg. The man's move was like lightning. Suddenly grabbed her wrist, narrowed her eyes, and looked a little dangerous. What are you going to do? His voice was low, even though he was injured at the moment, but Lily could feel that his arm muscles had bulged, like a dormant leopard, as if she wanted to make any movement, he would reach out and strangle her. The neck is average. His palms were covered with fine calluses, but he didn't look like a villager. Even though he was sitting on the ground in a very embarrassed state, his temperament could still be seen. He obviously had a good family education. People in the village can't develop the magnificence that he can't hide even if he is holding back. He was wearing a simple white shirt and fitted casual trousers. The trousers were wrapped in ankle boots, which made his legs look slender and strong. There were faint traces of muscles in the shirt. Judging from his eyes, he should be a trainer. Family son. To be continued. P.S. Second update. At noon, I originally wanted to see if any of the kisses showed true love to me, so I specifically didn't ask for a pink ticket. Result: I already fainted from crying in the toilet, but it didn't happen if I didn't ask for it. You guys are telling me that if you don't reach out, you won't be given the chance to give it to me. Hey, I want a little fan vote.